Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak-to-Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Welcome back to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. I'm Barbara Hardt.
And I'm Doug Armitage. Thanks for joining us. The intro music is provided by Nathan McEuen. With over 2,500 shows and a lifetime of performing and touring, Nathan McEwen's heritage, passion for writing, love of music and stories, and engaging presence are clearly evident in his performances. McEuen is playing at the United Center in Idaho Springs on Saturday, April 9th, 2022. Find out more at unitedcenterinc.com.
This episode is brought to you by Brightwood Music, Tadasana Mountain Yoga, the Mountain Man Outdoor Store, Very Nice Brewing Company, the Dynamite Shack in Nederland, the United Center in Idaho Springs, and, of course, the Mountaineer newspaper. And now to the news desk.
This week's movie at the Backdoor Theater is Licorice Pizza, rated R. The movie shows Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. with a Saturday matinee at 2 p.m.
Some of this week's highlights in the Mountaineer newspaper include our weekly music column, which is always available in print and online, 6 Keep It Local stories, as well as School Zone, the Backdoor Theater movie, multiple government articles, my personal column, Yeah, Again, and so much more. If you have an idea for a story, want to subscribe, need advertising and marketing information, or want to find out more about anything, email us at publisher1977@gmail.com or call 303-810-5409.
This week's paper features 40 pages of news. It also includes multiple April Fool's stories. Can you tell which is real and which is not? The first person to guess all the stories that are fake gets a free 6-month trial subscription. Send your guesses to publisher1977@gmail.com.
The Teen Center is scheduling youth corps work now, and they're hiring local teens to work too. Check out their website for information at www.teensinc.org.
For our first story, here's Jamie Lammers interviewing Nathan McEuen. Take it away, Jamie.
Hello, my name is Jamie Lammers, and I am so excited to bring on this month's feature musician for the Mountaineer Podcast, Nathan McEuen.
Well, hello. My name is Nathan McEuen. I play music for a living, but I do a lot of other things as well.
I hear that you are going to be performing at the United Center in the beginning of April.
Yeah, they have a concert series starting this April 9th, and they wanted me to be the first one to be a part of the series. Woohoo! I've worked with Bob Hickman before a few times. I've played at the United Center a few times before, and it's just great to have an opportunity to get back. So, really excited.
And where do you normally perform?
Well, my whole life, I've been basically touring the United States of America. And I would say the states that I tour the most are the western states, and being born in Utah and raised in Colorado, I find myself visiting the Inner Rocky Mountain region quite frequently. It's one of my favorite places to perform.
What started your interest in music? How long have you been interested in music? What's your musical background just in general?
Well, I was born into the music business since 1980. That's the year I was born. I've been touring the country with my family, and whether it be sitting on the side of the stage watching or being a part of the crew as far as being a roadie or being on the stage performing, I've been kind of doing this since I can remember, and I guess my first introduction and inspiration was inspired through family. The first time I ever stepped foot on stage singing was when I was about 6 years old. So I've been doing this for a good 36 years already at 42. And aside from my family, what I just love about music the the most is that it seems to be the most universal way to communicate to people on the planet. Regardless of what language you speak, you can get through to a different and further level when it comes to music. So I've always just been inspired by the way music communicates, regardless of genre, whether it be country or rock or classical or anything that people want to call it. I think it's a really fun thing to study music and the way it affects people. So I don't know. I just have always been fascinated by it.
And are there any particular styles of music or instruments that you lean more towards when it comes to performing music?
Well, for me, the styles I would suppose are folk rock, country, and bluegrass. It's kind of a mixture of those four. I guess some people would call it Americana. And the easiest way for me to travel, whether it be by car or plane, the easiest instruments for me to carry are a guitar and banjo. You know, you can't really check a piano onto an airplane. But I play several instruments, but I would say my forte would be guitar and banjo. And I sing and I love to write. It's one of my favorite things to do is write.
So you write original songs as well?
Oh, yeah. I've been doing that since I was 8 years old. I wrote my first song when I was 8 and then released my first full-length album when I was 25. And I've released about 7 albums since then. About 150 songs written, multiple genres, instrumentals, sung with lyrics, and written some music for some other artists along the way.
I'm curious what some of those other artists are, if you're willing to share.
Well, that's fine. My one artist that I had some fun success with, Crosby Loggins, who happens to be the son of Kenny Loggins. He and I ended up writing a bunch of songs, maybe about 20 years ago, and he had a successful career of his own that I happened to write some music for, his album, co-writes. I used to be in a hip-hop band way back when. I don't really go around saying that much. The band was called Bucket Tooth, but I would write a bunch of jam hop, is what they would call it, like jam music with hip-hop, with rap lyrics over. I wouldn't write the lyrics, but I'd write the music for this hip-hop band, singing backgrounds. I don't know if it really went very far, but the most recent thing I was really excited to do was I got called to do a musical score for the USC, the University of Southern California, their drama department that was doing a production of Romeo and Juliet, and they wanted to add some music to it. So the director of that play basically hired me to do a new twist, a new turn on the whole Romeo and Juliet thing and provide and add music to it. So I wrote an original score to Romeo and Juliet. So for me, I kind of bounce around, whether it be underscore, doing instrumental musical stuff like that, or for other artists that are trying to start their own career, or different genres just for fun. I could talk forever about them, but I've written a bunch of stuff for my family as well. For those of you who are younger, you might not know the name, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. For those of you who are older, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band was a band that started back in the late 60s, and they're still going after 55 plus years. That's the band that my father was in, and I was born in 80, years after the band started. But after he had his success with that band, he did his solo career and did a bunch of other things. And throughout all of that time, I had written things for the family band, for the family albums. And then, I don't know, I ramble on about this stuff. And this is part of what my show's about. I kind of just roll with it. And I kind of have like a Q&A going on sometimes during the show. People ask me certain things as I go. But all I'm trying to get at is the last few things I wrote for that I was really proud of, aside from the Romeo and Juliet thing that I did for USC, was a recent album I did with my father and brother called the McEuen Sessions, and I had written over half the songs for that album, and it was a lot of fun.
And who's your father again?
My dad, according to our lawyers, no, kidding. His name is John McEuen, and John McEuen was a co-founder of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and he gained his fame through being known as a multi-instrumentalist bluegrass banjo picker.
What was it like growing up as part of that touring life? Did it ever weigh on you in any way, or was it just a fun time for you, or what was growing up and touring like?
It was very surreal. And back in 1980 when I was born at the height of my father and my dad's brother. His name is Bill McEuen. He's a movie producer. They were both at the height of their careers, both having #1 movies that they were releasing and #1 songs and albums that they were releasing. So I was born at the height of my family's career. And the first time I was in the centerfold of People magazine was when I was 2.5 months old. And what I remember growing up were like flash bulbs and being backstage and hearing the noise of the audience of thousands of people cheering and clapping and singing along to songs that I'd heard Dad play in the living room in practice earlier. And so when I was young, I didn't know what to make of it other than it was just fun. I knew there was something special happening. There was a magic in the air that's very difficult to describe. And I just thought everybody's father and uncle made movies and music. And I didn't really think anything of it. You know, my Uncle Bill, he made the movie The Jerk and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And then with my dad's band, Bill produced their landmark records from Uncle Charlie and his dog Teddy and the landmark album Will the Circle Be Unbroken. And I just felt lucky to be in the room or be backstage, because going to Dad's office was basically, when I say I grew up in Colorado, I grew up on Floyd Hill, just right off of I-70, exit 247, 248, right there in Colorado. So Red Rocks was just 20 minutes down the road from my house, and going to Dad's office, literally like just going to Red Rocks, he would play there quite a bit through the years, whether it be with the Dirt Band or he would produce his own shows. So, for example, touring with my father, I got to meet an awful lot of people and did not even realize until after the fact who they were. For example, one of the first people I opened up for was John Denver. And it took me until years later to realize, oh my gosh, that was that guy. That was John Denver. Oh my gosh. So I didn't have the hype thing going on when I met a lot of these people. I didn't even know. They're just like regular people to me. Like the first time I met Johnny Cash, Branson, Missouri in 1993, or the first time hanging out with the Smothers Brothers, hanging out with the Stray Cats, I was constantly hanging out with people who were at the top of their game in the 80s. And it went on through the most of my life. It happens to this day. It's more like a ripple effect, an echo of what happened then and now, though. But what it was like growing up was a fun, whimsical, surreal roller coaster of an experience that came with both the best of the best emotions and the worst of the worst, because the music industry has its way of taking a toll on the personal life, the family. It really did a number on the family. I grew up in a broken household, so that's also a result of constantly being at the top of the game for a while. The family broke apart. I would say that was the biggest and most tragic thing of it all. But I don't know if I'd ever would I do anything different? No, I don't know. I like where I'm at today, and I get to tell stories about it and try to make some new things happen as a result. So here I am.
You've been touring since you were young. You've been doing all this stuff since you were very young. When did you start doing live shows on your own?
That's a wonderful question. So I would say as a solo artist, and took my career, picked myself up by my bootstraps, said goodbye to the family, I'm going to go do this by myself. I would say by the time I was 24, 25, I had my own album out, my own record deal going on. So that was about 17 years ago. And it's been a wonderful experience. And the funny thing about doing that is that going on my own path, I'd cross paths with my father on the road every now and then. He'd be touring his thing, I'd be touring my thing. And that was a really fun time of life, of like following in the footsteps of the family, only to realize that we keep crossing paths and on different timelines, only to arrive in the same place. I don't know. My point is I always still feel like I'm connected to my past and my life and my family because of that. But they stay close to my heart. But yeah, I'd say 25. But I mean, growing up in school, I studied music. I would go and do competitions all over the country. I'd say 25 is my solo career, but I would say by the time I was 15, 16, I was out doing stuff by myself across the country for music competitions, whether it be on like percussion ensemble or jazz band or choir stuff, or I was a music nut in school. I loved it.
Is there a particular part that you love about being able to perform live? Do you have a particular favorite part about being able to perform music as a career?
That's a good question. Connecting with people, ultimately, I think is my answer, because when you spend years doing what you do, crafting it, writing a song, and then recording the song and putting it out there, and then people show up to the show because of the song, and then they request the song, and then they play it for their first wedding dance or whatever. It's moments like those that really feel like for me, where I really feel the best and most fulfilled is when I'm connecting with people on a heart-to-heart level, where they want to include me or whatever I've done or written into their most sacred, their most personal space, whether it be a happy or a sad space, meaning like there's some songs I've written where people will be like somebody had just passed away and the family had resonated with a song that I had written about love transcending death or something like that. And for me, it's simply just about connecting with people and finding that universal theme where people can agree on something, like that was good or that was fun, or so that I think is the most fun, writing something and having it connect and having it mean something to somebody else. I think that's really where it's at for me. And of course, it's also nice to be able to buy a hamburger every now and then if you make money at this. But that's really not why I do this. It's funny, I tell people, try to go to a bank and ask for a loan, and then when they ask you what you do for a living, tell them that you're a banjo player. I love their reaction. Like, what's your occupation? I'm a banjo player. It's half and half. The reaction is like, they shut the door on you, kick you out of the bank immediately, like, we don't want you. We don't want your kind here.
Because you were raised in such a musical family, was music always something that you were set on doing, or were there moments where you considered moving into something else as you grew up?
I always knew music is going to be a part of what I'm doing. And while growing up, the thing that resonated with me first and foremost was making movies. And that's because it's also another family thing that I had been introduced to since I can remember, movie making. And that's another thing, aside from doing live shows, I'm proactively right now working on a documentary feature film that has everything to do about music and these instruments that I have that were given to me. And I'll tell people more about that at my show. But the instruments that I have right now that I take around the country with me were given to me by a woman named Russi Taylor. And Russi Taylor was the voice of Minnie Mouse from 1986 until 2019 when she passed away. Russi ended up giving me 9 of her instruments. I had met her because she asked my father and I to play at her husband's memorial at the Disney lot. And the reason why the memorial was at the Disney lot was because her husband was Wayne Allwine, who was the voice of Mickey Mouse. The voices of Mickey and Minnie Mouse were married in real life. And how I met Russi was when she invited my father and I to play at the Disney lot for Wayne Allwine for his memorial. And this is, to paint a picture here, Disney Burbank Studios. This is the lot that Walt Disney built. This is the memorial for the voice of the company. So there I was. I found myself playing for the CEO, Bob Iger, Roy Disney Jr., the heir of the company at the time, 2009. All the voice characters, Goofy, Donald, all their families, all the friends and family. I'm rambling here, but the point is when I met Russi that night, she took me in as her own. She's like, "You're mine," and basically adopted me as her own son because she didn't have any children of her own. She had no biological children of her own. So through the next 10 years, Russi made me her friend, and she started gifting me instruments that belonged to her and Wayne. And they're custom-made instruments. There's a Mickey Mouse head with Wayne's initials on the banjo that she gave me. So I have that one and only custom Mickey Mouse banjo that officially belonged to the voice of Mickey Mouse. As a way of saying thank you for that banjo to Russi, I ended up writing a couple songs called Mice Part 1 They Meet and Mice Part 2 The Magic as a way of saying thank you. And then that story just continues. I ended up writing 11 songs for Russi and Wayne. She ended up giving me 9 of their instruments. And this is just a little sliver of the documentary that I'm talking about that I'm working on. Playing music live and touring is secondary to actually what I do. So I get to do this. I feel so extremely lucky, and my job on this planet is to basically tell their story to as many people as I can, as long as I can, through their instruments, through their songs that I wrote for them. And the cool thing about Russi and Wayne is, you grew up listening to them. I did. My father did. This is a story I can tell to anybody across the country. Red state, blue state, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, son, daughter, and everybody knows who Mickey and Minnie is. I feel extremely lucky to be able to arrive with that story. And it goes on and on. I ended up writing a song called Pictures of You in My Heart for Russi because she asked me to. She's like, I got a line for a song that I think would be perfect that I want you to have. But I got to tell you, she was telling me we're sitting down for dinner, but I got to tell you it was the last thing that Wayne said to me before he passed away. So here you have the voice of Minnie Mouse telling me in real time, in real life, about how her husband's passing away in the hospital, and she's going there to say goodbye, say her goodbyes and stuff, and basically leans in to say goodbye. And the last thing that Wayne said to her before he passed is, "It's all right, Russi, I have pictures of you in my heart." So she asked me if I could take that line, "Pictures of You in My Heart," and turn it into a song. And I ended up doing that. And all of these songs are part of the documentary feature that I'm making for them, which are part of the soundtrack. I don't know how much I can actually talk about the movie, but I can fill you in on those kind of like basic details. That's the direction it's heading in. It's going to feature a live show at the end. It's going to feature animation. And the fun thing about Ruthie is not only was she Minnie Mouse, she was also Strawberry Shortcake. She was Huey, Dewey, and Louie. She was Baby Gonzo on the Muppets. She was 4 Simpsons voice characters. If you look her up, she's the voice of a generation, and we all know her just because of what the work she did. This is part of what I bring to the show, you know, these stories, my heritage, new songs, and on top of it all, the cool thing about this business, it's so funny. I did a show a couple weeks ago in the Phoenix area, and before I started, I met these people. Hey, we're the Rough and Tumble Band, and we're playing a show with you in Idaho Springs next month. I was like, what? I had no idea. I just met the Rough and Tumble Band 2 weeks ago. They're awesome. I'm super stoked they're a part of the show. The duo, guy, girl, their harmonies are great. I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I was surprised when I first saw them, and we co-billed, and it's a fun thing about this. I get to see them again in Idaho Springs. I'm sure we'll get a jam or something at the end of the show. All of us play.
Out of all of those incredible stories of you meeting people throughout the industry and having all of these incredible experiences, I think you mentioned that the one thing you really love about music and about being able to perform live is being able to connect with people in general. And so Is there anything you hope that audiences as a whole will take away from just your shows in general, but I guess more specifically the one in United Center, just because that's the one that's relevant, but is there anything that you really hope that audiences will take away when they come to see you?
I hope they take away one of my albums that they buy. No, I'm kidding. That's a bad joke. Truly, though, the main takeaway, have fun. We're in this together. I don't have much of a soapbox. I don't have a political thing I'm really doing other than just we're more alike than we give ourselves credit for. I think in this world, I want people to be able to feel like they can step away for a minute, just take a breath, escape, and sigh of relief. And, you know, I'm not there to be a big star rolling into town to feel better than anyone or anything like that. It's just about a shared experience, and hopefully people leave the venue feeling better than when they got there. I think that's just the main general hope. And if you do feel better by the time you leave the venue, I will be collecting another $3 because I don't feel we charged enough at the door. I'm kidding. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is there just anything else in general you want to add about the show or about your own personal experiences, some other stories you have in mind?
Personally, growing up in Evergreen, Colorado, so just right over the hill there from Idaho Springs, I'm just super excited to always get back to what I feel is my home away from home, which is Clear Creek County area. And, you know, growing up there, and my brothers went to Clear Creek High School, and my father and mother first moved to Idaho Springs in the early 70s when they moved in and started their own lives. So for me, I'm just super happy to be back and grateful, and looking forward to seeing anybody who wants to come out and hang out and have a good night, share some music and good times, good stories, good memories, all that stuff. Hey, I really appreciate your time and taking this interview and reaching out.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on board. This was awesome.
Yeah, I hope you got something out of it. And if I don't see you at the show, I get to Colorado a few times a year. It's one of my most frequent states that I play, and maybe our paths will cross some point soon. That'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much to Nathan for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. This was an absolutely incredible interview. If you want to see him live, you can catch him performing with the Rough and Tumble Band opening for him on Saturday, April 9th, 2022 at the United Center in 1440 Colorado Boulevard in Idaho Springs. Tickets are $20 in advance and $25 at the door.
Thanks, Jamie. And back to the news desk.
Visit Brightwood Music in Nederland for a custom setup of your stringed or fretted instrument. They also offer lessons for all ages and abilities. Brightwood Music is family-owned and operated and has been a Nederland staple for your string music needs for over a decade. They are located at 20 East Lakeview Drive, Unit 109 in Nederland, and can be reached at 303-258-8863.
Peak-to-peak musicians and artists, the Mountaineer is looking for you. We're looking for our June and July featured musicians. Would you like a feature story in the Mountaineer print, online, and podcast edition? We cover all news of the Peak to Peak, including business, author, and artist profiles. Right now, these are all completed through email, phone calls, and occasional in-person interviews with our journalists. Interested? Email publisher1977@gmail.com to get on the list for upcoming editions.
Did you know the Mountaineer has a free 100-day trial to the online and print edition? You can check it out on the website at www.themountaineer.com and click on subscribe. You can pick up the latest edition on stands now, which have a free coupon inside of it, or you can email publisher1977@gmail.com to sign up.
The pandemic was hard on all small businesses, but as Diana Underhill puts it, COVID was particularly hard on fitness-oriented businesses. Tadasana Mountain Yoga has been in Netherlands for 11 years, since March of 2011. And, quote, one of the things that yoga teaches is to be flexible, not just in our bodies, but in our minds and our capacity to adapt to changing circumstances. You will find the Tadasana Mountain Yoga Studio at 20 Lakeview Drive, Suite 110 in Netherlands. The studio's website is www.tadasanamountainyoga.com.
For our next story, Jamie Lammers talks to the Rough and Tumble Band about their opening act at the United Center.
Hello, my name is Jamie Lammers, and this is my interview with the Rough and Tumble Band.
I'm Scott Tyler.
I'm Mallory Graham.
And we are the Rough and Tumble.
Can you tell we've done that before?
Just a couple of times. We're a teeny tiny traveling folk band is how we kind of bill ourselves.
How did the band start? How did you guys get together and how did you guys start this band?
We met in 2007 at kind of a study off-campus program.
It was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah. It was on Martha's Vineyard. There's a music school out there that we both were a part of.
It wasn't a fancy music school. It was like a school of rock, like learn how to use GarageBand and learn how to songwrite and make a band while the music industry was crumbling beneath your feet.
Yeah. If you remember 2007, that's when, people were still illegally downloading music off of the internet.
Us included.
Yeah, and what a different time it is now. But we started this band in 2012. We've been a band for...
No, 2011.
In 2011. We've been a band for...
This year will be 11 years.
It'll be 11 years, yeah.
Yep.
We lived in Nashville for a couple years and then bought a 16-foot camper and moved in there and have been living out of that and just touring out of that for the last 7 years.
I hear you guys are performing at the United Center coming up very soon.
Yes, we are. We're really excited. We're opening for Nathan McEuen, who we actually just randomly shared a bill with in Arizona. He's really a lot of fun. Yeah, really a nice guy too. So yeah, we're really excited about that show. Should be a good one.
How did you guys get started individually in music? What are some of your musical backgrounds? How'd your interest in music start? All that kind of stuff.
I was kind of always singing. I grew up in a church environment and my mother was the loudest alto in the entire sanctuary, and I stood next to her most Sundays and Wednesdays and every other day that I had to go to church. And so I kind of took my cues from my mom. My family itself isn't very musical, but for whatever reason, I took to it, and my mom really was supportive of that. And so I ended up starting to sing in the church and going into musicals and that sort of stuff. And I took voice lessons for a little while and listened to a lot of 90s country music and then a lot of Alanis Morissette, and sort of developed mostly by imitation. I don't read music. I don't have any formal education in music, but I spent most of my time just mimicking the people around me and who I was listening to. And that was my education, essentially. Street cred.
Street cred is what you've got. I think I'm more the book learning kind. I played saxophone in band, and that was kind of one of my first...
Sick brag, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That was one of my first musical experiences as a 5th and 6th grader. And, also grew up in church and got involved that way.
Don't you have a BS in music?
I do. I have a bachelor's of science in music. Yeah, it's a BS degree in music. At some point, kind of really got into folk music, and we both love bubbled country and rock and roll and all that stuff. And so we try and bring a lot of that to what we're doing as the Rough and Tumble.
Are there any styles of music that you guys kind of lean more towards in regards to Rough and Tumble?
It started out, Scott was listening to primarily old dudes playing folk music, and I was primarily listening to young women doing pop music when we started. And so we kind of mashed that together starting out and found this balance of both really loving the weeklies and both really loving Brandy Carlisle. I don't know, as we were going forward, we did borrow, or not borrow, but I guess just sort of assimilate what we were listening to and kept trying to find common ground of what we would play in the car when we were touring, which then found common ground in writing. And so it was a really natural progression for us. So I'd say that we do lean toward folk. We do lean toward sometimes country, like old country, but no bros and beers for us, really. But I don't know, sometimes we have a lot of pop sensibility, I think, as well.
What in regards to playing live do you guys like the best? What sticks out to you about being able to perform live for people?
Well, after 2 years of not being able to do it, we're just happy to see people. Mostly it's the people part that we like.
Yeah, we love to share stories, on stage and kind of have that back and forth with an audience.
Yeah, the interaction is key.
Yeah, that's always really fun for us. We're also doing a lot on stage. In addition to singing, I play guitar, and I also have this little kick drum made out of a suitcase and a mailbox that kind of functions as a snare. And Mallory is often playing the foot tambourine and a banjolele and an accordion and a melodica, and it feels like folk music show and tell sometimes. That's always really fun. It feels like we're pulling rabbits out of hats up there and mixing cocktails at the same time.
But we don't actually mix cocktails.
We don't actually mix cocktails.
I think our show would be better. Probably we did.
We did. Pass them out. We'll work on it. But, the showcasing and, just performing is so much fun.
And what do you hope that audiences take away from your show when you come to perform in April?
Lots of merch.
Yeah, lots of merch.
No, I don't know. I feel like we've always taken ourselves kind of seriously by not taking ourselves too seriously. And what I always hope for people when they come to our shows is that they have a solid amount of time where they weren't really thinking of anything else, that they were able to be fully engaged and fully present and just felt connected for a minute. I think I always hope that we can rise above the urge for people to grab their phones. And I always hope that we can rise above the urge to be self-conscious of engagement. I think what I always hope for is that people are 100% in, because we're always 100% in on our shows as well. And I've always really intentionally done so. So yeah, I hope people are there, completely there. Good for the heart.
And what about music in general sticks out to you as being something that you guys wanted to pursue in your lives?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good question.
I didn't.
You didn't want to pursue music?
Well, as a kid, my dad always promised me like a tour bus. I'd be Shania Twain someday. And I did, for my third grade career day report, I did write my report about wanting to be Shania Twain. And then I had to redo it because it wasn't a real career to be Shania Twain.
Yeah.
So then I said I was going to be a veterinarian instead.
Oh, yeah. And now you're kind of both. We live in the camper. We have 2 very big dogs.
and a
hamster.
A rescue hamster.
Yeah.
All rescue animals.
Yeah, we found the hamster on a glue trap in Florida.
So now I'm kind of a vet and Shania Twain.
Yeah.
So it was like leopard print. But in all seriousness, I think I did always kind of know that this was going to be a path for me, but I was in denial for most of it. I went to school for communication, for radio, TV, and I was going to be a very serious media guru. And then kind of on a whim, I ended up at that music school. A professor just recommended it to me, and I ended up there. And I think I've always just fallen into it because it was a natural path for me, but I didn't necessarily push toward it like I feel like Scott did. Scott really pursued it and really was like, this is what I am meant to do. Whereas I just sort of said, maybe it is, but maybe there are other possibilities. And I don't know that I could do it any other way but the Rough and Tumble, because the Rough and Tumble kind of makes it possible for me to do all the different things that I like to do. Like, it's not just getting up there and playing a ripping accordion part or whatever. It's going up there and being myself and being able to tell stories and being able to make merch from the different art skills that we're learning along the way. There's room for so much of us in the Rough and Tumble that I don't feel like it's a pursuit of a musical career. I feel like it's just a pursuit of who we naturally are.
Yeah, I think if you follow the thing that you are having the most fun doing, I think that's what led us here, is we just had such a good time writing songs together. We had such a good time singing together and playing music together that this is what we're doing.
Is there anything else in general that you guys want to add or talk about or anything along those lines?
It's going to be a really fun show. We put out a record last year called We're Only Family If You Say So that that. We're really excited to share songs from that project with the audience, and just other songs that we've been playing and writing. And definitely get the 2 dogs and the hamster in there.
Oh, yeah, that's always good.
That's always good, yeah. In 16 feet of camper space.
Yeah, that's the ticket.
That's the good
People
stuff.
come out just to see if we're still married.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think those are all the big questions that I have on my end.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. Thanks for taking the time and talking to us.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for coming on board. This was awesome. Thank you so much to the Rough and Tumble Band for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. If you want to see them perform live, opening up for Nathan McEuen, you can catch them at the United Center at 1440 Colorado Boulevard in Idaho Springs on Saturday, April 9th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Tickets are $20 in advance or $25 at the door.
Thanks, Jamie.
For our final story today, Chris Kelly will talk with Mike Keeler at the Central City Visitors Center. Take it away, Chris.
I'm Christopher Kelly, and I had the pleasure to talk with Mike Keeler about his work at the Center City Visitors Center. Mike is a local historian and appointed ambassador to Central City, a true reservoir of knowledge centered at the Visitors Center on 103 Eureka Street. Mike talks about his love for the town and how he manages to weave history and the arts together as part of the live theater group that presented Call Me Ned and as part of the Central City Wild Bunch. Let's get into it.
I have on YouTube, I do tours of the buildings here.
Uh-huh.
And we used to have a Channel 12 here. Then I don't know what happened to it, but I want to get back into it again because I really enjoyed taking people in through all the buildings and telling the history and stuff like that.
Oh, I bet.
And I really miss it.
Yeah.
So, but it's all there's several on YouTube.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. I will definitely draw people's attention to that. I'll get the YouTube address. We'll write that down.
And it's just it would be under History of Central City.
Excellent. I love that kind of stuff. That's what I was doing just for the last 5 minutes outside. I got a snapshot of outside. I was looking at the history that you have posted up on the buildings next door.
Yeah. Well, in 1874, it was a gold mining town. A lot of people here. And then they also had the Great Fire of Central City that wiped out both sides. That's what it looked like in wood up on the top picture there. Mm. And then the bottom one on your right there, you can see what it looked like after fire.
Wow.
But every building in 74, they had a different work ethic, and they were rebuilding as soon as possible.
Yep.
And that's out of some of the archives here. But it's a beautiful place. It really is. I'm not going to be the one that rags on gaming places and stuff like that because they do bring some revenue in here. There's no doubt. But this town here is arts and entertainment, period.
Yep.
And I personally have been doing this since I lived here. It's been, 20 plus years or so.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to ask, how long have you been here at the Central City Visitor Center?
Yeah. Just tell everybody for a long, long time. That's what I tell. Here, Visitor Center, I can't even remember when I started. It's been over 6, I believe. But it's been a while. So I retired from the high-tech industry.
Yeah. And
when I retired, I got a call from the city. Said, Mike, would you like to be an ambassador for Visitor Center? I go, ambassador? Yeah, tell history and tell stories and greet people. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I did it. It started one day, and then it went 2 days, and then it went 3 days. Don't give me no more. I'm retired. I don't want any more work days. But it's a beautiful place, and the city does a great job of keeping this place up. I know we're kind of busting at the seams here now. We got a lot of stuff. But it's a great old building. This was a log cabin first in a saloon, log cabin.
Yep.
And it's in the picture. I'll show you.
Yeah.
That's your building right there.
I see. Yep.
And then after a while, they had it turned into a little restaurant. And then somebody was jealous over some other lady or something, and they shot that section out right there with a shotgun.
Yep.
That was the way they settled stuff back then. So Of course, there's some people that tell you they never had gunfights or nothing here. That's not true.
That's not true.
I got a picture of the best sheriff ever that they had here was sheriff for 32 years, and he got shot in the back.
So, in the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway.
Yeah, so someone couldn't see another way to resolve it. 32 years.
Well, what had happened is he retired, and then a friend of his had taken over for sheriff, and then there was an argument about him wanting to. What was it? He wanted him to file something, and the guy in the clerk's office said he didn't have time to do it right now, but he would do it. And of course, the guy got mad, pulled a gun on him, and shot. He fired one shot, and the sheriff heard it and came running to help him. And when he got to the top of the stairs, he had seen the guy standing with the gun, but he turned and got shot there. A lot of people say it's a shootout in the street. It might as well have been because it was right here. But anyway, this building is a couple stories. We got the mezzanine up here, which is a map room and a sign-in book for guests. Okay. And they can put a pin on the maps.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then the third floor is now an antique store that's owned by Dutch. And it's a beautiful old place up there, too. It brings kind of the accent to this place a lot.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I'm sorry I'm talking. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, no, that's fine. That's excellent. You're hitting some of my questions before I get to them, which is great. How long has the Visitor Center been in operation here?
Oh, God. Well, it started down on Main Street.
Yep.
And I couldn't give you an exact on that. It was... I wasn't working at it at the time when I was down there. I came into this one, but gosh, I would guess. See, Bill Russell goes back to Bill Russell because he had a building that he let people go into. So I'd say 30 years or so because he had that for quite a while.
Yeah.
And then this one moved up, and then we moved this one up here for more room, which we're out of space now again. So.
Oh, wow.
I'm guessing at that number.
Guesstimate.
But
That's cool.
Bill Russell, he was a mayor here. And he owned that red brick building down there, and that's where he stored a lot of his stuff, like our submarine and stuff like that. And then he would let people in to look at it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's up at the museum. So.
Yep.
But he was a collector, thank goodness somebody was, huh? And I had the honor for probably the last 2 years of his life. I got to know him pretty well, and he was one of the people that were in our posse pictures here in town that we took for years. And he was getting pretty bad in his wheelchair and stuff, but we brought him in here and set him up and we took pictures with him. He would bring some of his old antique pistols and stuff that his great grandfather gave him, and just cool stuff to look at.
Oh, that's excellent.
I'd say anything over 20 plus, maybe, just to be kind of honest with it. I know it was down on Main Street for quite a while. That's all I know about that one. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, that's all right. And you touched a little bit, you said you retired from the tech industry. And so you touched a little bit on what your background was before coming here. What sparked, since coming to, you were asked to be an ambassador. Well, what sparked your interest in local history? When did that start?
There was a lady, her name was Linda Jones. Excellent lady, and she was kind of like a mentor to me. And she used to run the cemetery crawl and stuff like that. But learning a lot from her, and she had her own tour company too. But I just listened and learned, and she was really a neat lady and had just loaded with knowledge about the history of this town. I mean, gosh, it's crazy. But when I was in college, believe it or not, I graduated when I was like 17, freshman year of college. It was 71. Was my first year actually, and then 72. I was there for a while and came out to visit somebody, and I never went back. I used to come up here when the streets still had wooden sidewalks, and there was still dirt on the roads and stuff. It was just a beautiful town, and I used to just love. I could go in. Years ago, they had where Annie's is, they had a little cell with a dummy inside of it. And it had these flashing eyes, and it was just a cool setup. But I used to love that place, I didn't make it up here that many times, but I was all over Main Street.
All over Main Street.
Mm-hmm. And back then they had, with all the saloons, they had entertainment in every saloon. I still think to this day, if we had a couple of those, they'd still attract a lot of people with the entertainment and stuff. But that's what, working with Patrice LeBlanc and Ed, they're trying to bring that back too, and all the shows that we do that they put together are just fantastic. And we just finished one last week. So.
Oh yeah, what was it?
Yeah, it was called the name of it was Call Me Ned. It's about the frozen dead guy.
Okay, absolutely.
And
yeah.
we had packed houses in both places. Here at the Elks, which the people in Central City love theater. I can tell you that because they pack it out here. And then the second show was in the Backdoor Theater in Ned.
Yep.
And they said it was over 75 or something like that. But it looked full to me,
Yeah, no, it was full. I definitely saw it. Yeah, I was right there in the midst of it. So.
Oh, it's fun. It's loaded fun.
Yeah. What else? What other theater stuff do you have planned coming in the future?
Whatever they have, but we have coming up Cemetery Crawl.
Yep.
And that's a big one here. We pick one of the cemeteries, which we have 10 of, that we can actually see the name of it. Because there's cemeteries probably all around this place. We just don't know who's down there. So Cemetery Crawl. And then we performed one show for Madame Lou Butch Days, and that's all we wanted to do there. But we plan on doing maybe one there. I'm also with the Central City Wild Bunch.
Okay.
And we've been doing shows. This is my 15th season, so 15 years basically.
Oh, wow.
We've been doing shows, and we started traveling around and doing them out of state and different places in town, or just outside of town, like Idaho Springs. We did about 7 weeks there last summer. And then we traveled to Kansas and do shows and stuff like that.
Oh, excellent.
And so that kind of stuff is what attracts me to the old mining days and stuff like that. When people say they didn't have gunfights, they just don't know. They don't read. They don't check the history. They don't check the archives. It's just a different deal here. But did I answer that kind of or no?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because
I don't want to keep running on. So
yeah, because one of the questions that I have here was what type of services, and I would say, like, you not just are you an ambassador of history, but like also letting people know where the arts and entertainment is.
Exactly.
And you yourself are finding a way to blend those two things. You're teaching history and entertaining, and doing like live street theaters.
Yeah, I entertain a lot here. People, when I start telling my stories, they want me. I say, if I've said too much, just tell me you've had enough. But they want to listen to them all. But I've got hundreds of stories to tell. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
We also have the creepy crawl, which is huge here. That's bigger than the cemetery crawl. People like creepy stuff. And all of our stories, Dave Forsythe is great at putting them together, especially for me, because mine either has a hanging or a shot with a gun or knife or something like that. I always have something in there.
Yeah.
And last year I was in the stables. Last October I was in the stables. But we had the bank that on the other side that we did it in, and Opera House, stables, Coyote Saloon, and Baby Doe's down the street.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, like I say, we have great guides that take people around, and they talk about the history on their way to each building and stuff like that. So, have you ever been to Creepy Crawl?
I have not been.
You got to come see it.
I know.
Just
I will definitely go. When is Creepy Crawl?
It's in October. It's just before Halloween, but we do 2 weekends because it's so busy.
And Cemetery Crawl interests me as well. I mean, I used to just do that with my friends growing up in the East Coast. A lot of those cemeteries are.
Is that where you're from, East Coast?
Yeah, originally from East Coast.
I'm from California. I'm on the other side.
I'm
glad I left it too, by the way. Years ago.
Me too.
I didn't regret it.
Just, California didn't agree with you. East Coast, Connecticut didn't agree with me.
Well, I was really never a mountain kind of guy, when I came up here, I didn't live here at the time. I lived down in Littleton.
Okay.
I was visiting somebody down there, but I came up here every weekend because there was stuff going on all the time, and I really miss all those street shows and stuff like that. You know?
Well, hopefully we see a resurgence of that stuff. I know it's important, like you were saying, and shined upon a little bit earlier, is like casinos. A lot of these old mining towns rely on the ski resorts. I mean, I'm living in Netherlands, and that's definitely a case there. We got the Frozen Dead Guy Day Festival that just happened, and that's a big boon. But trying to find a balance of preserving history and making money. and it's important that something like the Visitor Center exists.
I literally have people come in and they're either going to Denver or going up to ski, but they've never been to Central City. So I give them all the information they need on this place, and they enjoy it. When I came in, God, I don't know, it just kind of hit me, I guess. And I loved it up here, and I would never even I travel a lot when during the year. A couple of cruises and stuff like that, and it's beautiful places we go. But I'm always glad to get back. Here.
Excellent. And so you were saying being an ambassador and here being centralized here and being able to tell these stories, is that like what you would say that your favorite part of what you get to do here?
Yeah. Meeting people from, I'm not talking just people from the States, I'm talking international. Absolutely. In the summertime, there's a ton of them that come through here, and people find it hard to believe that 5 to 1 usually in the summertime of internationals is great, but that's what I love about it, when somebody comes in the door and they go, can you tell me about this town? Well, that's what I'm here for. So, I enjoy doing that,
Oh, that's awesome. And is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
Just that when people come into town and they come in here, they act, one of the first things they ask is, how come you're not big like Blackhawk? Well, number one, we're not Blackhawk. Number two, we keep history alive, just like our T-shirts say. These buildings are old buildings, and you cannot touch the outside of them, basically. And so we preserve that. And yes, we have some casinos here. They're small. Some of them are mom and pop here. But they have great revenue, and we just continue doing what we do. I mean, like the Wild Bunch, I've been with them for as long as I told you. We used to be down in the middle of Main Street in front of Dostal Alley, which was the perfect place because the merchants wanted us down there because we drew all those people to their areas, and they would come in. Plus, not only are we ambassadors, the Central City Wild Bunch, everybody in my group is ambassadors. We talk to people about the history. We tell them where they can go visit, like here, the arts, go on tours of the Teller House and stuff like that. So we're a smorgasbord of information for those people, which they would never have that when they come in. And that's why we like doing our shows on the street, for sure.
All right, that's excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Dutch is upstairs, and he's got a beautiful place up there.
Awesome.
And it just kind of, like I said, it just kind of meshes with this place.
With the place, it works well together. Awesome. I'd like to thank Mike Keeler for sharing his story with us. Be sure to stop into the Central City Visitor Center on 103 Eureka Street, open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and ask Mike anything about local history as well as local theater. And check out Dutch Central, the fantastic antique shop up on the 3rd floor.
Thanks, Chris. Here are a few final reminders. Did you know Hardt's Backhoe Service is your locally owned and operated excavating company working in the Peak-to-Peak region? They can take care of all your excavating needs, including septic installation, digging your new foundation, rock walls, construction demolition, and so much more. Now scheduling summer and fall projects. You can reach them at 303-589-9354. Thanks, everyone, for a great podcast. I'm Doug Armitage.
And I'm Barbara Hardt. Until next time, thanks for listening.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.